Leak, hosted here by Salem Alliance for the Environment. So we
Oh, Cindy, you just muted yourself. There you go.
Dave muted me by accident.
Oh, oh sorry. I was clicking.
That's okay. And so we'd like to ask people to go ahead and introduce themselves in the chat function if they could, so that we know who's here and maybe what town you're from. Please, we ask that people stay muted during the presentation and ask questions in the chat. And then we will either call on you, or if we stick with this small of a group, we may just open it up for questions and make that easy. The presentation is being recorded to make available for future uses on the Salem Safe YouTube channel. And we'd ask that you follow us on salemsafe.org, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of those wonderful things. So with that, I will move to the entry page. And Mayor Driscoll, do you want to make a couple comments now?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to help kick things off and to be in the virtual house with all of you. And I really want to thank SAFE for their efforts related to gas leaks. And I think the work of SAFE, Pat, Bob, others really helped put this issue on the map, literally and figuratively in this case, as we learned with you on this journey that there were gas leaks, small and large, in our community that we were totally unaware of. And, you know, I think the best part of the learning experience that we all had through this, and there were several elected officials who were out with you and Bob in the van. And I thought we were going to be wearing crazy hats as we mined for gas leaks, and found out this equipment's readily available and really was having an impact in our neighborhoods. And once we were out there, people, Pat, you'll remember, people were coming up to us to say, yeah, I think I smell gas here. And we've called NGrid, or this tree never survived, right? Even though we had planted a brand new tree there. And so it really, for us, I think, unearthed a number of issues that I think we've gotten better at, both communications with NGrid. You will notice this year, and as there was last year, there is a ton of gas work going on in our community to correct leaks. That's largely due to efforts brought on by SAFE and by the effort of being able to publicize where these leaks are. I want to thank Jack Nesson, our GIS director, who just so ably always works with us on whether we're tracking fireworks calls or gas leaks, puts together a narrative and story through mapping, which helps make this information transparent and available for anyone. And this effort also helped lead to us change the protocols for how we plant new trees, right? Wanting to make sure we were doing gas leak testing ahead of time to make sure we weren't planting a brand new tree in harm's way. So I'm grateful for the information sharing that we're able to do collectively, the transparency that this offers to community members, and the advocacy that has led to National Grid making a lot of repairs. There's going to be a lot of construction activity in Salem. A lot of it's tied to NGrid. And it's, as much as it's a nuisance and slows you down, we're grateful to have these leaks corrected, both for the people who live in close proximity to it and for the larger environmental benefits that it provides. So just want to thank you for your efforts, and grateful to sort of kick this off in between budget sessions as we do this work together. Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor Driscoll. It's really great. And you had the honor of being on the first gas leak safari with Bob Ackley and Nathan Phillips. And we are very grateful to you. And we noticed that Paul Tucker is also on the Zoom, and Paul Tucker was on the second gas leak safari in Salem. So, and both Paul Tucker and Kim Driscoll were very interested in going to Peabody Street in Salem, which is in many ways the heart of the environmental justice community in Salem. And both of them were able to see all of the trees on that street that were gassed out of existence, and traveled throughout many of the streets of Salem and documented all of the leaks that we have. So thank you, Mayor Driscoll, and thank you, Paul Tucker, for being part of our whole journey with this that started in 2016. Thanks a lot.
You want to go ahead, Pat, with just the intro, the further intro?
I'm going to do this. I'll just continue what I was saying and mention that it was our concern about gas leaks in trees and the gas leaks that were killing trees that led us to contact Audrey Schulman at HEAT. We had known Audrey Schulman from great work that she had done at renewable energy fairs that Cindy Keegan initiated in Salem. And I asked Audrey about the gas leaks and killing trees and how we could do something in Salem. And she was the one who directed me to Bob Lackley of Gas Safety Inc. and Nathan Phillips, a professor at Boston University, and made contact with them. And they said, you know, Audrey also told me what it was going to cost to survey the city. And I gulped. And I threw myself and SAFE on the mercy of Nathan Phillips and Bob Ackley, and told them, of course, that we're an environmental justice city, we're a gateway city, and I really didn't have to strong arm those guys with any ethical responsibilities. They immediately volunteered to come and survey the Salem. So we're grateful always to Audrey Schulman, to Bob Ackley, and to Nathan Phillips. As a result of our work with Bob and Nathan, SAFE ended up joining the Gas Leaks Allies in 2017. And I'm happy to say that tonight on the call also is Stan Franzine, who is the SAFE Vice Chair. And Stan Franzine and I are the liaisons to the Gas Leaks Allies, and we continue with the statewide work and a lot of legislative work that we are pushing. We were thrilled when HEAT offered Salem to access to the geocoded National Grid data for our new site. And you can see up there on the screen, and we'll put it again in the chat. Jack will put it in the chat, that the link to the new map that's on the City of Salem website. So it's totally transparent. Everybody can see where the gas leaks are in the City of Salem. And if you're concerned about your street or your neighborhood or some other neighborhood, you can check out what's there on the site. So, and now we're going to hear from another HEAT person who has been instrumental here, and that's Dominic Nicholas, who is a specialist in GIS material, and also who is has worked. I guess we've been working on this since last October. Is that right, Dom? To get this together. So Dom and Jack and I have been working on this, and I must say that I'm mostly an observer of the magic that Dom and Jack work. So Dom, would you tell us a little bit about HEAT and HEAT's work and your work with the City of Salem?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Yeah, I joined HEAT about 3 years ago, and I've been focused on the triage end of our strategy, so gas leaks. And I think Massachusetts is unique in that it has transparency required. We require gas utilities to report where their leaks are. And they've been doing that, I think, since about 2015 or thereabouts. And HEAT, Audrey especially, mapped those leaks. And some of you may be familiar with the work that HEAT's done in the past by producing those maps. Up until about 2 years ago now, those maps were just available through our website, through Google Maps. And so I decided I wanted to make that data shareable, not just the maps, but allow the data itself to be brought into different towns' information systems so it could be used in different ways. So I made some changes to the way that worked, and that included geocoding it, so adding GPS coordinates. Doesn't sound like a big step, but that is huge in itself because it allows lots of different towns to bring that data into their own information system and use it in different ways. And that's what we're going to see here tonight with Jack's work. So, I think what I'd intended to do with this when I brought it to the Gas Leaks Allies, I think it was a long time ago, over a year ago now, but was to allow towns to do three things at least. One, to allow them to tell their own story of gas leaks, allow them to inform their public just about gas leaks. It's amazing. There's still a lot of towns actually are not that aware of what's going on in the gas leak world. So this is a tool for doing that. The second use is to allow this data to be integrated with tree inventories, so you can plan around planting trees. Are we going to be planting next to an active gas leak? We don't want to do that. So that's another use, and other towns have actually used this data for that purpose. Like Brookline has been doing an environmental study with this data and trying to associate it with tree damage. The third use is really about trying to coordinate the your roadworks. Like if you're going to resurface a road, let's coordinate with the gas company to fix a leak if we see that there's one there already. So those are three main uses. And Pat was at the Gas Leak Satellite meeting, jumped on this and said, yes, we want to try and do this in Salem, and got Mayor Driscoll's approval. And so we started working together with Jack. And huge thanks to Jack, because he really took this data and did some amazing things with it. And so, I've been working with Pat and Jack on this project for probably, I don't know, about a year or so, but we're going back and forth and refining the content and working on the maps with Jack. And I think it's really fulfilled its mission. It's really provided us with a really solid pilot that we can use to entice other towns to use this data in this way, to do the same kind of thing. So Salem's really led this excellent work. So I want to say thank you to Jack especially, and definitely to Pat for making this all happen. So I'm just gonna, I want everyone to see the work Jack's done. So I'm gonna pass over to Jack. Jack, thank you for doing this. Okay.
Yeah, it's been great. So evening all, thanks for tuning in tonight. So some nice words there from the mayor, great introductions from Pat and Dom, so thank you. And I'm just going to use my time and sort of just jump right into what we've been working on. So I'm going to share my screen here. And so what we've got here is called Understanding Natural Gas Leaks. It's the new city data portal / informational website pertaining to natural gas leaks in Salem. And we're leveraging a platform called ArcGIS Online, which is provided to us through a software company called Esri. And we're using a built-in tool that they have called Hub Website and Portal Design. So the whole idea is that you can create these really rich, content-rich websites that are tied into databases and data sets, and allow for a really easy consumption of information, data, narrative, media, all sorts of fun things. So there's lots of really cool stuff in here to look and play around with. So I encourage you all to check out the link that's in the chat and go to town on this. It's really interesting. So what we did, we basically took all of our really clean, nice data from HEAT and loaded it into our GIS system. And then once it was in the GIS system, we were able to sort of jump off from there and do some analysis and categorize all of our data. So I'm just going to scroll through the page and briefly talk about different sections. I'm not going to get too crazy in depth on some of these things because I'd like folks to sort of play around and get used to using the site. And I'm available here at the city, so folks can follow up with me whenever they want. So we start out with just some simple data cards. We're looking at the total reported gas leaks in 19 versus 20, and we're looking at their repair status, repaired versus unrepaired. So you can immediately see that there's some change within the last year. And so we're able to present that really simply out front. And that's a great way to get started, right? How many are in Salem? and what's going on with them. Are they repaired or unrepaired? And then, you know, where are they? So we'll continue down to this map where we have two data sets, 2020 and 2019. You can see they're symbolized a little differently here. So you can zoom in, you can pan around, you can go right in and click on a point and learn all about that gas leak. So the data is presented, excuse me, in a really consumable format, and it's got a lot of good pieces and information here for folks to consume. So we have search bars. You know, you can type in any address, my home, for example, and, you know, see what's around you, which is really interesting. City Hall. So that's really helpful, right? We're able to use this map and quickly find places and find activity near us. So that's really helpful. So that's our second piece here, our simple sort of gas leak map. We have data disclaimers, you know, really important to pay attention to. We get into some narrative, right, where we're providing information. You know, these are all links to various studies that you can go and read and download. So we'll just sort of gloss over all this stuff. We have a narrative here about gas investigations in Salem, including some links to some wonderful work over the past couple of years done by Marcos Luna, looking at methane anomalies. So I encourage you to check these out too. He's over at Salem State doing some really cool things. We have a wonderful video from Pat here, if you want to take the time to watch Pat in her element. And then we have some safety information too, language worked up from us from the fire department. So if you're wondering on what to do if there's a gas leak in your house or anything like that, you can reference this. And you can tell this is sort of designed for the public, right? This is our public sort of informational tool for natural gas leaks. It's less of a internal tool for City Hall and more of a data and information tool for the public. So once we get through that, we start to jump into some really neat analysis. And what we did was aggregate all of our data points or gas leaks into different geography boundaries. So we're looking at neighborhoods, wards, low-income neighborhoods, and environmental justice neighborhoods. And so these maps are interactive as well. You can zoom in and around, click on a neighborhood, get your counselor, get the name of your neighborhood, and what's going on in that neighborhood in that given year. So all maps right now are set up for 2020, so the most recent data. And then you can see there's a color ramp here. So the darkest colors indicate the largest number of leaks. So we have these graphs here too, so you can look at the change in year to year, neighborhood to neighborhood. And you can see there's some difference here. In 2019 or 2020, South Salem has the most, or in 2019, Broad Street has the most. So the ability to present this data in sort of two different ways along with text is really powerful. So these analyses included total leaks, reported unrepaired leaks, and repaired leaks. So we're doing 3 levels of analysis for each geography. So now we're looking at wards. And we have our contact information for our counselors right here. So if folks want to get on the horn or the email, they can. Publicly, available data. So get on the horn. And then more graphs. So again, total, unrepaired, and repaired. And you sort of see the changes in these maps, location to location. So that's pretty neat. Then we're looking at low income, same sort of deal here. The graphs are a little different. These indicate the percentage of leaks, that are in a low income neighborhood versus not in a low income neighborhood. So in 2020, it went down by almost 1%. So they're about half and half in or not in a low income neighborhood. So again, unrepaired, repaired gas leaks. And then we jump into environmental justice communities as well. And there's a quick little definition of what consists, what qualifies a tract as a as a environmental justice neighborhood. We're looking at income level, we're looking at demographics, we're looking at education level, and different things like that. And so it's the same deal again: total, unrepaired, and repaired. And so that's sort of our analysis piece. You know, it's nothing really too crazy. We're just sort of aggregating and summarizing data, but it gives a really clear picture of what's happening around the city and gives you some access to contacts to sort of talk to folks about it and express your concern. So moving on, we have, and this is what I think is the real power behind these hub websites, is the ability to access data. And this is the raw data and curated data that we put together. And you simply just click on the Explore data card, and it takes you to a web page, another page. Oh, sorry. What a bad example. My bad. Oh my gosh. Well, looks like this aspect isn't really working tonight. Sorry about that, everyone. It's embarrassing. So what's supposed to happen is that you're able to access the data download page where you could download the data into a geospatial format if you're into GIS. You could download it into a Excel format. You could download it into a API or JavaScript. So you can do all sorts of different things with it. We can just try one more here. Not sure why. Here we go. So we have our download button, and off we go into a CSV. So that's a really helpful tool, and I think that's one of the real sort of powerful pieces of this sort of website, is that you can actually get the data, download it to your computer, and play with it. Run your own analysis with it. Here's a good working data set. So it gives us a map of the data set, and then you can download it in different sort of formats. So for those of you who are into data science and statistics and all things like that, you can download the data and sort of dig around with it. So that's our data sort of gallery. And now we have our online maps and applications gallery. And each one of these will bring you to a different online curated map that the city has available. So we have our reported gas leak map, which was the same map as at the top of the page. Our 2020 reported gas leak dashboard, a 2019 reported gas leak dashboard, and our historic gas leak dashboard. So I'm just going to jump into this one because this contains all gas leaks reported from like 1994 on, and it's pretty interesting. So we can check this out. It gives us a ticker, a gas leak ticker. The total count gives you a fully interactive map where you can click on a point, get all the information. Blue unrepaired, or blue repaired, red unrepaired. And it's all fully interactive. So on this visual, if you click the unrepaired section, it'll filter the map and all the other visualizations as well. So you can run sort of these ad hoc sort of filters and queries with this sort of data. Just the repaired leaks, 643 all the time. So there's some really sort of deep level stuff you can do here. And then we have some graphs here, your repair, your repair, and your report. And these filter the map too. So if we want to look at all 2020 repairs, you click that, and then it'll change everything accordingly. If we want to look at gas leaks that reported in 2008 and that remain unrepaired, so you can stack these sort of filters on top of each other. I think there's some real power to that. If we want to look at 2019 repaired leaks that reported in 2017. Well, that's kind of too small to click, but reported in 2019. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and it's really kind of interesting. And so all that is accessible at the bottom of the page through this gallery, maps and applications. Jump into one more here, 2020 dashboard. And this is a just really simple sort of indicator. And the mayor looks at these a lot, and they're great ways to just get information in front of someone in a really quick, easy way. So again, there's that filter function there. then getting towards the bottom of the page, we just have some social media things happening from HEAT and from Gas Safety USA, and just the bottom of the page with some contact information. So that's our public natural gas leak website. It's accessible through the actual city website. So if you type into your Google Salem GIS and go to the city GIS page, there'll be a section called natural gas leaks, and you can access it right from there. There's also a link in the chat, so if anyone wants to save that link, go for it. Or you can just email me, and I'd be happy to provide some things. So this is our hub website. So does anyone have any questions on that before I move on? Or comments or anything? Oh, another aspect which is really cool too, I'm very sorry, I should have led with this, is that the site is fully translatable into 60 or so different languages. So for folks in Salem who may speak Spanish, they can click on this translate button and go to Spanish. And the entire site translates into Spanish, which is really great and makes it really accessible for all folks to sort of consume the data and understand, the issue. So I think that's really important. So before I move on, does anyone have anything they would like to ask or comment on?
Jack, I do. I just want to say and underscore for everyone that that translation ability on this website is terrific, because when Mayor Driscoll and Paul Tucker and I first went down to the Point area and we're talking with folks out on the street, we were having a real problem communicating with some folks who didn't speak English, and they were really concerned. They got the gist of what we were doing. We were looking at how the gas leak was killing trees. They could see the tree that was dead there. And when we, Marcos Luna and I, went to meetings of the Point Neighborhood Association, we were really handicapped by the fact that we couldn't present the information in Spanish. We did some. Lucy Cachado was great translating, but this is very empowering to have it be in all of these different languages so that everybody in our city can access it. And I thank ArcGIS for thinking of this and putting that as a possibility. And as Jack noted, everything is translated on the site, but also some of the materials that were from other organizations are not translated. They are still there in English, but that's paying homage to the wholeness of the information they presented. So thanks, Jack, for bringing up that factor. And others, do you have questions you would like to ask?
I have a couple, if you don't mind. So I was just curious if, and I think this goes to Dominic and Jack, but I was curious if either in Salem or in other towns or other scenarios, if there's been any mapping of the leaks overlaid with health or asthma, as well as the age of the infrastructure, like when those gas lines went in.
Yeah, that's great. Not in Salem. We don't have much of that, or I haven't seen it. And we're not granted access to the infrastructural data from National Grid, like the actual pipelines. So it's unfortunately hard for us to sort of determine that. But looking at that sort of public health things, that's a really interesting take there.
And then my last question was, I thought this was there maybe when I saw the preview, but I didn't notice it when you went through it really quickly just now. Is there something that, can you visually see the size of the leaks, or do you have to open each one?
That data is pertained in each point. So if you want to click on the point, you can see the ending leak grade. But I will elaborate on that when from a next piece.
Okay.
I had a question. That's okay. Yes. First of all, this is incredible. It's an incredible amount of information. It's really impressive and very telling. For the unrepaired leaks, is it just backlog or some trickier to repair than others? And, you know, are all of these repairable, or what is, what's the status of the unrepaired ones?
I'd say all of the above. You know, there's lots of different moving pieces to these projects, and some of it's definitely backlog, some of it's prioritization. You know, National Grid is prioritizing certain projects over others based on sort of what we're doing in the city, what road work we're doing, what improvements we're making to sort of align with us. Unfortunately, we can't really see into National Grid too clearly, right? So they don't really explain a lot of their intentions with us. They sort of let us know where they're going to be, and we sort of have to play ball, which is a little frustrating. But one thing that we are doing in the city now is we're mapping out all of our pipe replacement projects, and we're looking at that. And we get those ahead of time from National Grid. So based on those, there can be some indication of which leaks are going to be addressed. But as for, you know, why they're targeting certain ones versus others, not really sure. It seemed like their highest rate of response was in the Point for the past year. It seemed to have the highest rate of change versus the year before. So that's nice that they sort of went into that low-income neighborhood and really tried to address the issue there. So, you know, a lot of that might just come from us based on the pressure that we put on them and sort of what we expect as a city, and working with them as a partner, and you know, where the needs are in the town. You know, we're the experts here too. So I think, you know, we have a responsibility to sort of hold them accountable and sort of point them in the right direction, and point them in the places where the need is highest. And I can sort of elaborate on that too with my next piece as well, where I'm going to dig into some of our internal products that we're using here at the city to sort of guide our decision making.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'll move on. We can talk. We can keep doing questions after. So not only do we have this public piece, but your natural gas leaks in this data has fully integrated itself into processes within the city. We have a new online permitting software called Viewpoint Cloud, and it's a completely GIS-based permitting system. So, for example, when a planner or someone in the engineering department, so on and so forth, has a project they want to propose, they enter an address, and it drops into a map, and it brings in all the things that are happening in that location. You know, is it in a historical district? Is it a low-income district? Is it, you know, X, Y, and Z? And so one of the flags that pops up is if there's natural gas leaks within 50 feet of the project site. So when someone wants to do a project, they immediately know if there's a gas leak there, and if they need to get in touch with National Grid. So that's a really neat way to streamline things and make things efficient. Before we had that, you know, you'd have a project, and you'd have to get in touch with the engineering department, and then the engineering department would have to call National Grid and give them the address, and then you'd wait for National Grid to get back to you whether there's leaks in the area. You know, and there's all these different collaboration, all these different moving pieces that were sort of operating really slowly. And now that, you know, we have this in our permitting system and in this GIS, it has made things a lot more streamlined, and it enables us to work efficiently within City Hall and collaborate a bit easier, which is always great. You know, better collaboration, more efficiency is always important, especially for municipal operations. So what we have here, though, is our internal gas leak map. And so what you're looking at is a collection of different data sets. We're looking at our unrepaired gas leaks. We're looking at our capital improvement projects. Then we're looking at our paving and sidewalk work. So everything that's sort of happening in the roads, in the infrastructure, is on this map. And it just allows folks within the city to sort of see where their projects are and see in relation to the gas leaks without having to go dig into that permitting software, and just sort of see really quickly where things are. This has been really helpful for people to see. We also have several other data layers that you can add. We have our tree inventory, and we have our Salem willows trees So for example, if you want to, check things out on Hathorn Street, you can look at all your trees. You can look at, closest gas leaks, what projects are happening in that area. How do things line up? Say, I'm getting ready for this paving project at Endicott and Pratt. Well, we have some trees here that we need to, check out before we begin. I see that there's no gas leaks here, so, I don't have to worry about National Grid. Maybe just get in touch with the tree warden and make sure these trees are all set. So, tools and products just to increase efficiency in the city is something that the sort of GIS system really provides, and that's been really important for us. We have a couple tools in here which are really neat. We have a filter tool, so you can look at the actual ending leak grades. You can grade 2 or grade 3, and it will filter them down. So that's helpful. Cindy, getting to your sort of question there. And we also have what's called a near me operation, where you can drop a pin on a map. We'll just do it right downtown. And it will show you everything within a certain area. And so that's really helpful too. When we're doing projects near wetlands, for example, we need to be conscious of our 100-foot, 200-foot buffers. So that can help with things like that. And we also have this info summary, which gives you a quick look at, the 3, whatever actual data is actually toggled onto the map. You can do this. So you can get a quick look at all the capital improvements, click on one, and it'll zoom to it on the map and give you the information. And all this information is also viewable if you just click the point. So that's really helpful. So those are our tools. This is our internal map. This isn't publicly available yet, just because there's some sensitive pieces in here. Where we're going to work on utilities projects. Where we're going to do a water main replacement, things like that. So folks can understand that some of the stuff isn't really fit for public consumption. However, the public does have access to these various maps, so they can see this data and get the information, and sort of learn and consume it and sort of figure out what's going on in their neighborhood and on their street. So we have our public side products, and then we have our internal tools that we're using as well. And I really wish I could bring up our permitting software and show you guys how that works too. I think that'd be really interesting, but I myself don't do a lot of permitting or any really at all, so I don't have access to it. But folks in the planning and engineering and building departments do, and they're seeing this data. And another note too, just on our city stuff, is that when contractors come to us to request utility maps for a potential site, they're getting the natural gas leak data on those maps as well, so they know to call National Grid if they need to before they start working. That saves us a little bit of time and sort of gets them prepared and gets them really familiar with their locus area. And all this is brought to you by ArcGIS Online. You can get a free account with a Google account and start building these sort of tools and these websites. So, if SAFE is interested in sort of that thing, you can get it for free. If you work for a school and you want to look at some of these things, you can sign up for free through the sort of educational program. So the power and the access to this stuff is there. Just sort of have to know where to start. And I'd be happy to sort of talk to folks who are interested in maybe trying to get set up with a free ArcGIS Online account and start looking at spatial data and sort of tying things together around the city. So I'd be happy to talk to folks about that outside the meeting. But that's it for me, for my 2 things. So if anyone has any more questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. Again, criticism is more than welcome. So fire away.
While people are thinking about what their questions might be, I just wanted to give a shout out to Stan Franzine and Carol Hauto, who are on this Zoom, for all of the great proofreading work that they did in looking at different versions of this website. Stan and Carol are great proofreaders, so if you're looking for proofreaders, go to them. They were terrific combing through this site. Anybody got a question now that they would like to add, put out there?
I just thought I'd call attention to Carol had asked a question about just, you know, whether there was any leverage against the gas companies to get the leaks repaired. And I know Dominic responded, but maybe just to have that conversation really quickly versus just in the chat.
Can you just say the question again? Is it about leverage?
The question that Carol had asked in the chat regarding, you know, whether there was any leverage against the gas company to get the leaks repaired.
Yeah, I mean, the original intent behind this was to pressure the system, you know, to pressure the utilities, not just your town and National Grid, but other towns and other, you know, Eversource and Columbia, by educating town members through this kind of system. You know, I think, you know, I perhaps idealistically imagine that more people will start getting on utilities cases to fix these leaks. And through that mechanism, I feel like that's the way to pressure utilities. There's the nuance that, you know, the utilities have a limited amount of resources. So some leaks are more important than others. Super emitters, for example, are, in my opinion, more important than a very small valve box leak that's not emitting much, for example. So it's a nuance, like trying to make sure they prioritize the right ones as well. So there is pressure from regulations and law that they need to fix significant environmental impact leaks within a certain amount of time now, and that's a fairly new thing. So that, you know, aside from regulation moving along, this is a tool for people to pressure the system. But, you know, other than calling them up and saying, hey, there's this chronic gas leak outside my house, what are you going to do about it? And just keep calling them. From what I understand, if enough people call about a gas leak, they will respond. Again, that nuance about, is it the right one to fix? How do they prioritize it is a good question. But so tools like this are very helpful for you know, leveraging this information. I don't have a better answer than that. Hopefully that's helpful in some way. There's probably other ways.
The more knowledge, the better, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's organizations like Mothers Out Front that will do more of the activistic work, tagging leaks to raise awareness that way, to put pressure on the system to get them to repair leaks. Like Jack said, the internals, but how they prioritize is a good question. You know, they do survey and they grade leaks, and that puts them into the regulatory process. Like grade 2s need to be fixed within a certain period of time, grade 3s, SEIs. There are rules, but within the bucket of grade 3s, which is where most of the leaks are, how they prioritize repair is still a bit of a mystery to me. And you know, we talked a little bit about pipeline replacement there. There's the same question there. Like, how are the street segments prioritized for repair? You know, they're based on a number of factors that that they're required to look at, but there's also some gray areas about, well, what other factors are they including? We're still learning. You know, I'm still learning about this too. Now I'm also waffling. So please, somebody else ask a different question.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to what Dominic said. He was referring to SEI's, significant environmental impact leaks. And we don't have any of the, according to Bob Ackley, when I last talked to him about that 2 years ago, we don't have any of those large leaks in Salem. But I want to underscore the importance of those significant environmental impact leaks and point out that this is according to research that was done by Margaret Hendricks at Boston University, that 7% of the gas leaks emit over 50% of the methane that is going up from our streets. So only 7. So think of what Dominic was saying. If we can find those 7% of the gas leaks, then we could cut down on the methane being emitted into the atmosphere considerably with just going after those leaks. So I don't know, would you add anything to that, Dominic?
Yeah, I mean, that's been my focus for a number of years now. You know, we've engaged a number of groups, and heat and the gas utilities themselves have engaged in this thing called the Shared Action Plan to enact a method that helps them to find the super emitters. And so, you know, my work has been very closely following the utilities, but how well are they finding these, and then how well are they repairing them? So we're, you know, as an independent watchdog, essentially, you know, I'm trying to help the utilities get better at finding those super emitters. And there are different regulations for repairing those. You know, they need to be repaired within a couple of years. So it's been huge progress in the last couple of years to get those regulations in place. So we need to keep, you know, pressure on this system here to make sure they keep doing it. So that's what HEAT's involved in very deeply. We'll be doing that for another 3 years to make sure they get better at it. Those are the big ones. That's true. Those are the very environmentally impactful ones. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to add and thank Senator Joan Lovely for coming to this meeting. Senator Lovely has been a great supporter of this project of SAFE in tracking down gas leaks in the city. We interviewed her and she appeared, I think she and Paul Tucker appeared in 2017 on one of the first programs we put on SATV and about gas leaks. And the question we posed was, who pays for gas leaks? And Joan Lovely and Paul Tucker made it clear that we, the consumers, pay for the gas leaks. That all this gas that is being emitted into the atmosphere was just added on, divided up and added on to our gas bills every month. And I think that along with the trees and along with our paying for the leaking gas in front of our houses, and throughout our city, that was a really important factor. I don't know if you want to comment about it. Joan had some great stories for us when we went over and interviewed her on Story Street about a gas leak that was right across the street from her house. And you want to tell that story, Joan? It's a great one.
Sure thing. Thanks, Pat. I'm trying to fool around with my light here. Sorry, I'm in a dark bedroom. Yeah. So that's right, Pat. You came over because I had shared when gosh, we've been on Story Street since 1981, and probably, for at least a dozen years, we could smell gas. And we had, a lot of older residents on the street. We were the new kids, right, on the block, but we could always smell gas and we just couldn't find it. I would call the gas company probably at least 3 or 4 times a year and say I can smell gas, and they'd come out with the poker and poke it into the street and with the cones, right? And they're like, "Yep, lady, we can't find it." And then the house across the street, the owners had passed away and the house was conveyed, and the new owners that came in had to have their water line replaced. And when they replaced the water line, they found a major gas leak. There it was right in front of their house the whole time. And it was at least a dozen years of smelling gas. And it has since been repaired, but that opened my eyes to what is going on with this. And, it's so rampant and such an major environmental issue. I'm so lucky to be on the Global Warming and Climate Change Joint Committee this session. So I'm trying to absorb as much as I can so I can be, helpful in this area as we're passing more legislation. So happy to share that story. And Pat, thank you, and to SAFE and everyone, Cindy and everyone here, for all your great work, and so happy to partner with all of you. You're such strong advocates and you've taught me so much. I'm very appreciative. So thank you.
We appreciate your work too, Joan. Thank you very much.
So there's just a couple other questions I just wanted to make sure we got a chance to do, and then maybe we can get back to the rest of the presentation. But Flora was asking just about kind of the GIS data, and things are only as good as the data you get and how you enter them. And so I don't know if you can comment about how you get the data and how you make sure the accuracy is there.
Yeah, so all of the data originates from the annual service quality reports, which is a bit of a mouthful, but every year the utilities are required to report their entire leak inventory, repaired, unrepaired leaks, everything. And so Heat takes those and I geocode them. And in the process of geocoding them, actually, let me back up. The leaks today are located by postal address, so like 10 Main Street or this street at that street. And so, there is a bill, I think it's Feingold bill, that's trying to get through the House, that is trying to request that leaks are more accurately located with GPS coordinates from the get-go, which would be huge, because you go out to one of the leak locations that they report, and that can be quite a large radius of error, like hundreds of feet. Let's say, well, it's at 10 Main Street, but it's actually down the street a little bit. There can be some error in it. However, for most surveys, they'd be able to go back to that location and locate the leak based on that address. We take that postal-based address list and geocode it. And in the process of geocoding it, we actually catch a lot of errors in their initially reported locations. And then we put it through a fairly rigorous kind of testing cycle where we'll map it, and we look for different kinds of warnings of translation, like, lane became place or street became road. So we do a bunch of correction in the process. So at the end of the day, we feel like the set of data that we've got, it's only as good as the original reports, but it's way better than if you just took the original reports and tried to use that. So yeah, it's definitely an inherent problem with the system at this point, and it's something I would like to see changed. I would like to see leaks geotagged very carefully from the beginning, like you've got the epicenter of the leak with very accurate geocoordinates. I don't know why utilities are not doing that yet, and I'd like to see them do it.
By the way, I want to give a shout out to Representative Lori Ehrlich of Marblehead, because it was Representative Ehrlich who pushed the legislation that made it mandatory for all local gas distribution companies to report the leaks that they were called about over the previous year. So at the end of it, that's why our website is as updated as it possibly could be with data from National Grid, because it's at the end of a year that they report the leaks to the public. And Heat, thanks to Heat, they go in there and get the data, and then Dominic, it clearly is one of the people cleaning up their data as best he can. And then it was that cleaned up data of National Grid that Jack was able to use to construct the site for the city of Salem. So that's really, that's a shout out to Lori Ehrlich for her pioneering work in doing that.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that recently, I think it was the year before last, new regulations came in that required them to also do quarterly reports in a standardized format, which has been huge. So last year was really the first year where I've been able to use standard format reports from all the utilities on a quarterly basis. Now, we haven't gotten there yet at Heat. Because we're like a tiny nonprofit that's really under-resourced. But I want to get to that point where we can push through the quarterly data as well. And so I'm hoping this year we'll get to that point. But at this point, it's an incremental step in the right direction. But the Massachusetts is the only state that I know of that has this level of transparency, and so we're able to use this data for this kind of work and for other research as well. I'm also working with Marco Soluno on a research paper right now that is looking at EJ in a bit more detail. So it has other uses. So even though it's an annual basis, it's still incredibly useful. And, again, we'll try and get to the quarterly frequency soon.
I thought Carol asked another great question, which is, in the leak database that they report, like in the case of Senator Lovely's leak, where they didn't actually find it, would that show up as a leak or not in their database?
Yeah, well, we found that they tend to be underreporting the number of leaks generally by a factor of like somewhere around 2.5 to 3 times, and that's based on our field research. Now, don't quote me on that because it may depend on the area. It could be that's what we found in an urban environment. I don't know what it is like in Salem, but typically the consensus is there's a certain degree of underreporting. That leak you described sounded like it was on a service line. And I know typically the surveyors, they're supposed to walk all of the territory, but they also drive it as well. So I don't know exactly what they walk. Maybe they don't walk up to every building. And so, but I don't know. There's definitely room for improvement. And again, that underreporting seems to be what the experts believe is happening. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that there was a leak on the service line that was chronic and wasn't necessarily caught by them. Now, they do, I want to be objective, they do find a lot of leaks as well. So it's not like they're just kind of, wandering around looking at the sky. I mean, they do find leaks, they are surveying, and they take it very seriously. I think they could also do a better job as well, like a lot of people.
Yeah, I had experience with a pretty bad gas leak that they did not do well on in Salem. I had another question, which was just also, is this information available or tied to DigSafe? So if, so that if it may not be the city doing work, but somebody else that's going to be digging somewhere. I mean, typically it would be in the road, so I suppose that would be city at that point, but I was just curious.
Not as far as I know. I would have some concerns about tying it to DigSafe. I'd want DigSafe to be connected directly to the utilities to get up to the most latest information. Even if we went to quarterly, you could still be 3 months out of date. New leaks appear, old leaks get repaired. So that the system is continually changing. So I think as far as I know, this isn't connected to DigSafe. And I would want to be very careful about what was connected to that, people's safety.
Sure, that makes sense.
Jack, do you know anything about the DigSafe integration?
I'm not sure if they have access to the actual, point of a gas leak. I do know that they know where the infrastructure is. So I can speak to that. I know that when you call, it'll flag, water, sewer, storm water, and natural gas. I would certainly hope that they have some sort of access, but to echo what Dom said, we want to make sure that they have the most up-to-date, as close to real-time sort of data set as possible. I imagine, there's thousands of calls into 811 calls every day, right? So having access simply to what we have, I don't think would be quite good enough for them. It's enough for us to sort of plan our projects and sort of plan some decision making around. But I wouldn't think it would be accurate enough or up to date enough for that sort of use. But it's definitely something to look into. And I think the more open data that's out there for people to see, the more concern there is, the more public education there is behind the issue, and therefore the more pressure there is on the providers and regulatory sort of bodies as well.
And that seems to be the other question that kind of keeps coming up is, how can we have influence to get things done? And so the last question I think here is whether the DPU has any control or influence over utilities identifying or repairing the gas leaks.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know enough about DPU to answer that. I mean, I can hazard rough answer that, you know, they do set the rules, some of the rules that the gas companies have to adhere to. And I've heard that they're maybe a little bit under-resourced to enforce those rules. So I'm not sure what the right answers are. I think there are other people that would be able to answer that much better than I could. So I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth here. Sorry.
Alrighty. So I think with that, we'll go back to the remainder of the presentation. So I think so just to remind everybody, if they wanted to explore on their own, this again is the link to the website for Salem. And then Pat, I'll let you continue on.
Okay, so a lot of what we've been talking about seems kind of grim. We have some leverage with the gas companies, but we don't have enormous leverage with the gas companies. But fortunately or unfortunately, they're providing us with scenes like this one, which was a picture of a house that where a gas system exploded and a fire ensued. A young man was killed in a house. This was in Merrimack Valley in Lawrence. A young man was killed in Lawrence. He was sitting in his car in his driveway. And the gas companies are giving us more ammunition to hold them accountable. And what happened in Lawrence was just really horrible in 2018. And the question we're asking ourselves is it a good idea to keep replacing these leaking gas pipes, this leaking infrastructure? Well, if you take a look at the latest approximation that the Gas Leaks Allies have come up with, working with economists about how much it will cost to replace all of the gas pipelines. And I know people have alluded to, the mayor alluded to all of the replacement of gas infrastructure that's going on in the city of Salem. Last year, some of it went on my street down in Salem Willows. We saw all those yellow plastic pipes that were replacing the cast iron steel pipes that were in the street. And the projection of what all of that gas infrastructure replacement is going to be is between $12 and $16 billion for pipes that are going to be outdated by 2050. And they're going to be outdated because, thanks to legislators like Senator Lovely and Paul Tucker, the next generation climate bill that was passed in the past year is going to make it really impossible to keep using gas in the ways that we're using it. And so the question we're asking ourselves is, we started out by saying ban gas. Gas is the past. We don't want any more gas, all of that. And now we're looking at alternatives. And the alternatives that SAFE has been exploring, and that HEAT and Gas Leaks Allies have been exploring, and many others are exploring, is moving towards electrification, moving towards replacing gas heating in our houses with geo-microgrids. And we'll show you something. We'll show you just a quick intro. If we could maybe go to the next slide. HEAT has presented, Zainab Magavi and Anita Camargo and Audrey Schulman have come to SAFE a number of times, and they have shown us this revolutionary project that they have begun in creating geo-microdistricts. And geo-microdistricts were actually approved in the legislation over the last year. The first justifiably geo-microdistrict will go in the Merrimack Valley, probably in Lawrence, the city that faced the most devastation due to a gas leaks explosion. And on the left there is a graphic that HEAT has been using to show people how how using heated hot water going through the streets rather than having gas going through the streets, that this heated hot water will be the force for heating our homes. And heating is close to 50% of the emissions that for Massachusetts that is damaging our climate, as we all know. So we encourage you to go to the HEET website, HEET.org, and to explore the micro districts. There's the URL right up on your screen. Go there, and exciting for us is that the first one will happen in the environmental justice city of Lawrence, and SAFE is of course promoting, and that Eversource is going to put that system in. SAFE, of course, is talking about bringing something like a geomicro district to Salem, and we've been partnering with North Shore Community Development Coalition and introducing them to this idea. Cindy Keegan, in her role as a board member at Waring School in Beverly, is exploring the possibility of geomicro district for the Waring campus, and that would be very exciting. The more of these demonstration projects we can get off the ground to show people, look, there are alternatives. And the other box on your screen there is from Colorado Mesa University, and that university is powered by a geomicro district. So it can be done, and Colorado Mesa University has been doing this for years. We hope that we can be a catalyst for helping a geomicro district come close to us, either in Salem or Beverly or wherever. But Eversource is doing Eversource is the gas distribution company for the Merrimack Valley, and National Grid is the distribution system for Salem and Beverly. So we hope that there'll be a geomicro district coming to a town near you very, very soon, because we think that the future is to get off gas and go to electrification and stop having this flammable substance of gas in our homes. I mean, I'm kind of horrified by my own home that's heated by gas. And every time we turn on the gas stove, we have a huge vent over the stove to get the methane out, because not only is methane itself a problem, but also the fracking chemicals are coming through, and they have been detected in the gas that is in our homes. So we want to get rid of gas. That's our goal. And HEET, thanks to HEET and the Gas Leaks Allies, there is a lot of partnering going on with the gas distribution companies. HEET has been revolutionary in showing these gas companies, look, there's another way for you to make money. Pump hot water through those pipes, that distribution system that's in our streets, and stop pumping gas through the streets. So that's on the revolutionary end, but it's actually happening. It'll get kicked off the ground. I think, Dom, is it going to get kicked off in Merrimack Valley this year?
Yeah, I thought the site had already been kicked off, and I know National Grid's trying to get their rate case passed, put through, so that they can fund their exploration into the GeoGrid as well. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. There are a number of different locations, I think, that are slated to pilot this, and other states too. You know, New York. I'm trying to remember. I'm already so overloaded with my own work. I tried to stay out of the geomicro district work, but yeah, it's pretty exciting. The Eversource one is happening. It's going to happen. So yeah, pretty exciting. You know, I think HEET is still looking for other potential sites. So I put in the chat, you know, the part of a website that's looking for that, the potential geomicro district sites URL, and also post in there a little link on our website, the geomicro district, so you can read more about that. But yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, I think it's really timely right now to float this. So we've been working on this ever since I've been at HEET for like 3 years now, and it can do heating and cooling. It's cheaper, it's safer, can trim back the gas system. We've got legislation in place to allow companies to sell energy, not just gas. So, you know, we're trying to approach it from all of the different angles, legislative, you know, from the gas company's perspective, through allowing them to have a future and their workers to have a future, and to just get us off of gas. I think I'm a bit concerned that the gas companies are going to be trying to push hydrogen next. So I think we need to be gearing up to prevent that from happening. So I hope it doesn't happen. This is an absolutely amazing system, and it can work, and we've shown it can work. So yeah, I keep my fingers crossed, and I'll keep working on it with the team. Hopefully it will take off.
Okay, so here is the future, and we want you all to explore more about geo-micro districts, and to help us with the positioning of a bill that we think will really revolutionize heating, the geo-micro districts. So there is, and again, Lori Ehrlich plays a starring role in this next iteration of our struggle to help the gas companies clean up their act. So Senator Cynthia Cream and Representative Lori Ehrlich have introduced a bill into the legislature called the Future of Heat in the Commonwealth. And we're hoping that, I don't know, Senator Lovely, if you've signed on to co-sponsor that. I know you were attending, you and your office were going to attend a legislative update that happened yesterday. But we, both Senator Lovely and Paul Tucker, have been extremely supportive of our work. Do you want to comment on that, Senator Lovely?
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Yes, I was there yesterday together with staff, again, to learn about the future of heat in the Commonwealth. It was absolutely, you know, nothing that I would even think of, because I don't have that background, but where we really can go as we are protecting our planet and providing for our future. I have not signed on, but I am signing on. So I'll sign on shortly, and I want to support both Senator Cream, who was the chair of global warming and climate change this session, and Representative Ehrlich, who's just a dear and just amazing colleague right next door in Marblehead. So, and I did hear, and Stan Franzine had encouraged us to alerted us to actually that briefing. So thank you, Stan. We were there, and I appreciate it.
That's great. So we encourage all of you to contact your rep or your senator. There's a link right below to find your rep or senator, although my suspicion is that everybody on this Zoom already knows how to do that, and probably already knows and is in contact with your rep or senator. But that's really important. It's comprehensive, and again, a shout out to Lori Ehrlich for all of the work she's done about gas historically to help raise our consciousness. And this moment that we're in, as we're talking in Salem about gas leaks and we're talking about wind, we're really at a cusp of revolutionary change in our society. And so wind is one possibility. And when people ask, well, what's going to power the heat pumps that are in your house? Well, we hope it's going to be offshore wind. And we're really working hard on offshore wind. We want offshore wind to be brought to Salem. We have a wonderful opportunity here in Salem to do that. And we have a great opportunity also to push the whole idea of the geo-micro districts. So if you're interested in helping to further any of the causes, the many that we're working on, please feel free to get in touch with Dominic Nicholas at heat.org and ask Dominic any of your other questions, or Jack Nesson, and or both, I should say, Jack Nesson, for suggestions about how to put together, have your municipality put together as a comprehensive a city informational webpage, as Jack has been able to do with the data fed to him through Dominic and his allies at HEAT. And I give a shout out to Bob Ackley, who was the person who, with Nathan Phillips, volunteered to come and do the initial screening of gas leaks in the city of Salem. Bob is great. He runs his own company, Gas Safety Inc. He donates tons of time to environmental groups, and he also, as a result too, has gotten lots of paying gigs. He's on the contractor list for the city of Salem because we have made sure that no trees get planted in the city of Salem unless Bob has already been out there and he's tested the designated site where the new tree is going to go in. And that's really important in Salem, because we are, thanks to a Greening the Gateway Cities grant, we are going to be planting 2,400 new trees in the city of Salem, and all of the trees that will go in the streets will have the tree pits tested before the trees go in there. So we feel as if we're doing a really good deed for trees in the city of Salem by making sure that they're not condemned to being planted in a tree pit that is already polluted with gas. So Cindy, do you have it? Oh yes, we have some other things to add coming up. Cindy, you want to walk us through this? You've got to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. So we just wanted to, thank everyone who attended, and we can still do some questions afterwards if they have them. But just to let everybody know, for our next meeting, July, we're going to take a break from our public meetings and have more of a safe internal meeting. But our next public meeting will be in August, August 5th. So our typical, the first Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. And the topic's a little bit to be determined, but most likely it's going to be on offshore wind activity, since that's still a hot topic right now in Salem. But in the meantime, we just encourage everybody to stay involved. 3 of our bigger projects that you can get involved with or do something with for offshore wind. You can certainly email us to join the offshore wind group for more information. And we encourage everyone to attend the Salem Harbor Port Authority meetings or listen in or look at that information afterwards. And the link is there. That's also the first Thursday of every month. So it's usually right before our meetings. And then for gas leaks, SAFE will continue to work with Gas Leaks Allies and share all the latest news on gas leaks and what's going on there. And then from an encouragement of electrification specifically to continue to support the Green Building Ordinance. It's working its way through City Council that was submitted by the Sustainability Committee in Salem. So that will be moving forward too. And as we said, this is recorded, so we will be releasing this back on YouTube. So if you've got any other friends that wanted to listen, but maybe over at the Salem Sound Coast Watch meeting tonight too, which was another fantastic topic on what to do about flooding with climate change coming up, then certainly encourage them to watch this after the fact. So with that, I'll close kind of the formal meeting, and if folks want to stay on and ask a few other questions, that would be fine.
Thanks, Dom. Thanks, Jack. And thank you, Senator Lovely, for coming. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're more than welcome. It's been so wonderful working with Pat and Jack. I got to say, they made this go really easily. I mean, again, huge thanks to Jack for all of his work. A huge amount of work he's put into it. So thanks again for having me. And I'm just curious, how do you keep abreast of when the new SAFE meetings are coming up? Do you join the OSW group? Is that how you do it?
Just send us an email,
Okay.
Dom, at salemsafe@gmail.com, and we'll keep you, put you on our distribution list.
All right. Yeah, well, I'll do that. I'm going to hop off. It's been great seeing you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dominic.
Yeah, thank you, Dominic.
Take care.
Yeah, and just to say thanks as well. Pat, thanks for coming to us with this. I think this was a great chance for the city to sort of step into a leadership role for this sort of work. And, we're incredibly proud to be able to do that here at the city. So, it's been great, and I hope we can keep keep going with this and maybe convince, you know, other municipalities around the state to sort of adopt this format, the standard of public data and data commons sort of approaches. So thank you for having me as well. I'm actually gonna get off as well. I gotta get home and feed the dogs and all that. So thank you guys very much. And please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to talk to anyone who's got questions about, you know, this sort of work with the natural gas leaks and just about ArcGIS Online in general too, if folks are interested in setting up accounts and learning a bit more about that whole world. So thank you again. It's been great.
Thanks so much, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
All righty.